On behalf of the FIEP leadership, I'm delighted to welcome you all on the 18th Annual Scientific Congress of Montenegrin Sports Academy and 16th FIEP European Congress, which is held in the beautiful city of Dubrovnik, Croatia.
The next presenter is Stefan Kolimechkov from London. His topic, nutritional assessment of female yoga practitioners with different levels of experience.
Just sharing my presentation. Dear Mr. Chairman, dear colleagues, it is a great pleasure to present here at the 2021 MSA-FIEP Conference. My colleagues, Associate Professor Petrov, Associate Professor Vankova, Dr. Douglas and I conducted a study entitled Nutritional Assessment of Female Yoga Practitioners with different levels of experience in yoga. And yoga is a comprehensive life discipline. It has been increasingly popular all over the world, and also it includes lots of components of healthy lifestyle, such as not only the exercises, the yoga poses, which are very beneficial indeed, but also some stress management techniques, low-fat diet, and other positive outcomes. And while healthy eating is important for everyone to prevent diseases, it is also important for people who do yoga in order to make progress in yoga. And therefore, the aim of our study was to assess the nutrition of yoga practitioners with different levels of experience in yoga and to compare their results with some international guidelines for a healthy diet. This study included a total of 89 female yoga practitioners from Bulgaria. They were all enrolled in a postgraduate education course which led to the qualification of yoga teacher, and that was organized by the Bulgarian Yoga Federation and the National Sports Academy in Sofia, the capital of Bulgaria. And all of the participants had a minimum of 2 years of experience in yoga prior to the study. And we divided the participants into 2 groups depending on their experience in yoga. The first group included yogis between 2 and 5 years of experience, and the second group included more experienced practitioners in yoga with 5 years and above. And we measured their height, we measured their body weight, and we calculated their body mass index. And in order to assess their nutrition, we applied a food frequency questionnaire. This food frequency questionnaire was actually used in our previous studies, and we published it in different peer-reviewed journals. Some of them are shown on the left side of the slide. Based on the results of the food frequency questionnaire, we calculated the relative protein intake, the relative carbohydrate intake, the relative fat intake, and in addition to the energy contribution which comes from proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. We also used the Harris-Benedict equation in order to calculate the BMR, the basal metabolic rate, for every single participant in the study. We applied the World Health Organization and the American Cancer Society recommendations for a healthy diet in order to evaluate the results of the study. In terms of statistical analysis, we used Excel spreadsheets and GraphPath Prism software. We applied Shapiro-Wilk test of normality and descriptive statistics, and the data with normal distribution was compared by using unpaired t-test, and the data with abnormal distribution was compared by using non-parametric Mann-Whitney U-test. And all of the data here in this presentation is presented as the mean plus minus the standard deviation. On the next slide, you can see the anthropometric parameters of the yoga practitioners in their groups. There were no statistically significant differences in the height, weight, the body mass index, or their age. The only difference was in their experience in yoga. And based on the assessment of the body mass index, only 3 out of 89 practitioners were assessed as overweight. None of them was assessed as obese. And all of the rest were within the normal limits for body composition. And then in the next table you can see the daily intake of the macronutrients as well as the energy needs and the energy intake. The energy intake that we calculated based on the food frequency questionnaire completely matched the energy needs. And as you can see, the ratio energy needs energy intake was almost 1, which means that there was neutral energy balance. And this is really good for maintaining body weight. Also, the calculated energy contribution, which came from protein, fat and carbohydrate, was within the recommended guidelines and values by the World Health Organization. That being around 15% came from protein, around 55% from carbohydrates, and for both groups less than 30%, less than the limit of 30% from fat based on the recommendations of the World Health Organization. In the next table you can see the weekly consumption of the types of food which were part of the food frequency questionnaire. The World Health Organization recommends that everyone should consume at least 400 grams of fruits and vegetables every day. And we calculated that the participants in our study consumed around 600 grams per day in both groups, so that was above the minimum recommendation of the World Health Organization. Also, overall, the yoga practitioners were consuming less meat. Around 60% of them in both groups were vegetarians, so they were not consuming any meat at all. And for those who are consuming meat, we can see some reduction of red meat, which is in compliance with the American Cancer Society, which recommends that red meat should be cut down on, and instead fish and beans should be consumed, which is actually the case in our study as well. And also we calculated that on average the yoga practitioners were consuming around 29 grams of free sugars coming from added sugar, from sweets, from chocolates per day, and that was around 6.5% of their energy intake, which was below the limit of 10% of the energy intake provided by the World Health Organization. And in conclusion, the diet of the yoga practitioners in both groups corresponded with the recommendations of the World Health Organization and the American Cancer Society. Participation in yoga should be widely recommended as a practice, and further research should be conducted in order to review the effects of practicing yoga on body composition and nutritional habits. And with this, I would like to conclude my presentation, and thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Professor Kolimechkov. Are there any questions for Professor Savchuk?
Thanks for the presentation, Professor Kolimechkov. It's a very good study, as far as I can see. I have a question about, the thing is like you gave them a questionnaire to test, to measure their knowledge about the nutrition, right?
Yes, we used the food frequency questionnaire.
Okay, so is this their knowledge, the knowledge of yoga participants are coming from the philosophy of yoga, or the participants, these yoga participants are already well educated, so they know about the nutrition, so that's why they have like very good nutrition level?
Thank you very much for your questions. Those participants in our study were part of a course which had a nutritional module inside.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You. More questions? I saw many of videos, many videos, Professor Kolimechkov. You are great, gymnast. Congratulations and thank you for your contribution.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.